Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I am pitching the second of a triple hitter, and excessive amounts of coffee are making this possible. And today I'm recording with Adam Bowe, founder at Cake. Adam, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's a great day. We're excited. We're heading towards demo day at 101 Weston Lab. So I've just got a ton of energy right now around Cake and around being here on this podcast.
You are maybe the third or fourth company that I've had on the podcast, or that I've recorded. Maybe they haven't gone live. I don't know, but you're like the third or fourth 101 Weston Lab company, and I am really excited for the Western Lab. So yes, very awesome. So Adam, so according to LinkedIn, you're in Tallahassee, but you might be in North Carolina right now for the accelerator.
No, I'm still in Tallahassee. Yeah, still in Tallahassee right now. We're actually fresh to Florida. My wife, she's getting her doctorate in clinical psych, and so she's working at. So she's working at the state hospital close to Tallahassee.
You were frozen for a second.
So we just moved here about 2 months ago, and so far really enjoyed it, man.
Froze for a second. I'm waiting for you to get back. Okay, you're back now. Sorry, we froze there for a second. Okay. So
yeah, I think you're freezing up just a little bit.
So your wife is getting her doctorate in clinical psychology, and that's why you guys moved to Florida?
Yeah, so we just moved about 2 months ago. She's working at the state hospital pretty close to Tallahassee, and we're loving it, man. It's been awesome. We're melting a little bit, so maybe excited for North Carolina, for it not to be so hot. But
okay, so hot. North Carolina is still hot. It's just not Florida hot. Yeah. Right? It's closer to Kentucky hot, which you're used to.
Exactly.
Okay, so you spent the record-breaking hottest month in human history, July 2023, down in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah, I mean, luckily as a startup founder, I didn't spend a ton of time outside. You're strapped to your computer a little bit in the guts of building this thing. But yeah, we were able to sneak outside in the evening for a walk or two. But yeah, we showed up at get the worst at the start, man, because then everything else seems better.
Okay, makes sense. So Adam, we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Cake? I think you're back now.
Sorry, Tony. You're getting pixelated on me. So I'll just start at what is Cake.
Yeah, what is Cake? Thank you.
Yeah, so Cake is a transactional marketplace for independent agents to buy and sell books of business, and not only just full books of business, but also transact on fractional books of business. So the concept comes from, M&A has been huge in insurance recently. The last 15 years, that it's up something crazy like 280%, over the course of the 15-year period, but when you look at the breakdown of the agent kind of demographics, right? Like you've got 40,000 independent agents in the market right now, but you've also got 2% make more than $10 million or more in ARR. You've got about 10% that fall in that 3 to 9 zone, and then you have 83% of agents that make less than $1.25 million in ARR. 38% make less than $150,000. Now, the reason I just hit you with a lot of those numbers is because there's a huge cohort that is too small for regional brokers to help with when they have to go through that transaction, right? And I think there's a slight misconception about like the PE funds and some of the more active acquisition folks about who they're looking to acquire. And so you have a large cohort of agents that have a really valuable asset, right? But will have difficulty transacting it simply because it's hard to find buyers. And then when you also talk to agents that we've done a lot of market research over the last 12 months, you have independent agents that want to acquire, that want to grow inorganically through acquisition. And historically, that's been difficult for them to find the sellers, for them to do, for them to process that acquisition, right? Like go through all those steps. And so it lends itself to a marketplace. And I just came from Xometry, a manufacturing marketplace that connected buyers and sellers there. I've got pretty deep experience building marketplace solutions. And when I saw kind of the issue between the buyers and sellers meeting, but then also this potential to provide, really boutique and targeted solutions from a fintech and a transactional perspective that are targeted and built directly for insurance and insurance agents, it got me really excited. And that's where Cake came from. And what the solution that we're trying to provide is just the most flexibility, the most control for agents on both sides of the transaction, either in growth mode or in a liquidity moment.
Okay. So I always like to give a quick disclaimer on podcasts about agency side stuff, because I have never been a licensed agent. I have never sold a single PNC policy or a life policy. I have never worked a day of my life in an agency, nor ran one. What I have done is I have been very involved with agencies as their underwriter, as their marketing rep, as a recruiter. And in other ways, my girlfriend did work at a very, very large national shop, or global shop rather, first in a local office as an account executive, and then in corporate, where she grew to be a very young VP. So I've seen a lot of the brokerage world, but I have never sat in front of Epic or Vertafore. So when it comes to selling and buying an agency, so I have seen kind of from the outside how, they've been just gobbling each other up like crazy for the whole time that I've been around. And many of them have been gobbled up by very large players or by private equity kind of thing. I'm not a huge fan, but whatever. The side that I do speak fluently is demographics. And I got into demographics. I'm not a demographer, but I play one on TV kind of thing, or on YouTube to be more exact. I got into demographics on the topic of how do we engage and retain millennials within the insurance industry. And it was very much meant the carrier side, but it ended up being both sides. And so much has been said, written, etc., about the average insurance agent being, mature, to put it in a polite way. But basically, like many insurance agencies just don't retire. Many insurance agents just don't retire. And those that do sell off the book, basically. Very often their kids don't want to take it over, so their retirement plan is sell the book. Okay, so that was about the extent of my knowledge before we started chatting. So you've already educated me a lot. I knew that there were many of the 40,000 independent agents that are just not sizable, but I had no perception at all on the difficulty for them selling the book. But as you quickly explained it, makes perfect sense to me. So
I think, it's, I was just going to say, I think too, it's important to underline that, this isn't just an insurance problem, right? Like we're in the middle of a great wealth transfer. It's the greatest wealth transfer.
The greatest in history,
The Silver Tsunami, right? It's like something like $77 trillion worth of wealth will change
which
hands.
I am not a beneficiary.
And it's like $7 trillion of that is small businesses that'll be sold, right? And so, it's plumbers, it's electricians, it's HVAC folks, right? It's anything and everything that the parents are having trouble convincing the kids to join the family business. And so I don't want to say that it's exclusively an insurance problem, but one thing that you did bring up is the average age of the agent. And what's important, so the average age, depending on where you go right now, is somewhere around 54, right? And the 17% are 66 or older. 17% of agency principals are 66 or older. But the largest share of older producers is held by that $150,000 a year agency. So the smallest agencies also have, I think it's 66% of that, the whole cohort's book is managed by technically an older producer. And so, I think where You said you're not a fan of the PE acquisition, and I think what we're really trying to facilitate is for agents to play both sides of this transaction, because I think you were touching on a little bit like the millennial retention rate. What a lot of sellers want is for their buyers to treat their customers, the folks that they are providing insurance for, the same as they would have treated them, right? And ultimately too, they're getting their employees. I mean, man, like one of the most, I've been in the insurance industry now for probably about 14 months, building this product, getting it launched, integrating with partnering with the right folks. But one of the things that's constantly impressed me is that if you're an insurtech and you say, I'm going to allow you to replace talent at your organization, that agent's going to say, well, I don't need your product because I don't want to replace talent, right? But if you say, I'm going to make your talent more efficient and effective and allow them to grow and do additional, work for you, right, to flourish, that agent's going to listen to you. Like, they're super loyal to their team. And so, what we want is to facilitate and to build scaffolding and tools around the folks that, it's a really important transaction if you're retiring. But then also it's a huge opportunity for agents if you're on the acquisition side and you're growing. And I think that there's it's not just retirees that can sell, right? Like there's this really interesting, scenario where, some agents, like there's so many different ways to win as an independent agent. Like just because you're an independent agent, you're in the same town, you've got the same, size shop, you guys might be focused on two totally different niches, two totally different ways of winning. And so some agents won't touch commercial trucking with a 10-foot pole, right? But some agents live and die by commercial trucking. They're like, man, that's my niche. I crush it. I provide great rates, great service. I've got the carriers for it. And so, it's not just retirement. It's, hey, maybe I've got some E&O or some D&O, some directors and officers, right? Some surety lines, right? Some commercial trucking, whatever that is, non-standard auto, non-standard personal, right? Some folks out there, that's another man's treasure if it's not yours, right? And so being able to capitalize on that, reinvest those funds into growing your business, optimize around profitability, optimize around operations cost, that's an incredibly attractive proposition to everyone, right? The seller gets capital, the buyer gets to grow, and ultimately the customer themselves gets better rates, better service, better coverage.
All right. So when I saw you on the schedule, so my general my general attitude to the podcast, the reason we've recorded 450 plus episodes, is because my general attitude to the podcast is if you're even remotely in the insurance or insurtech space, I'm happy to have you on. And so I saw your come in, and I saw something about buy and sell agencies, and I kind of assumed that the business was basically helping evaluate the agency, if that's the right word, helping figure out the value of my agency, and maybe help find the buyer. And I was like, whatever, kind of boring, but whatever. Probably important for the few people that need the service. But as we started recording, and I took notes, right? So transactional marketplace for indie agencies to sell and buy books of business. And immediately I perked up. I was like, that sounds interesting, right? Interesting. Not just full books, even fractional books. And at that point, I was like, that's new. That is new, and that is interesting. So I do want to learn a lot more about that piece, about the transactional, about the fractional piece. Okay, so I own an agency, and I want to sell part of it for whatever reason. I want to just generate quick revenue, or right, there's a really nice vacation home that the wife wants, or the husband wants, or whatever, right? Like I don't know. Like I want to, but I don't want to sell the business. Okay, so talk to me about the fractional. Like, how does that look like?
Yeah, so you can create a listing based on line of business, state, carrier, and so you can slice and dice your book by those three metrics, right? So, for example, you could say my entire commercial travelers, right? And I also want to be really respectful of the fact that half your listeners are on the carrier side. And quickly before I get into the metrics there, the vision that we have for the carriers, and if any carriers are listening, I'm super interested in talking because we're working with a few of them. But the vision we have for the carriers is that ultimately they're a winner in this too. Their premium that they're interested in keeping in network, right? Like in their book, ends up with the agent best suited to make that profitable premium, right? So if you're looking at a niche or a line or a state that you've got agents that are more effective at servicing that type of premium, right? You want that with those agents. And so we want to help facilitate the right deal for the right folks across the industry, right? So, but let's say you've got a CNA workers' comp in Ohio, right? You could say, I'm going to do my full CNA book, right? That's a relationship that maybe doesn't make sense anymore for us, right? Or you could say, man, I've collected a few workers' comp or BOP or general liability, whatever it is. I've collected these, and I've got about 5% of my book with CNA and these commercial lines, right, in Ohio. And it's not what I'm set up to be successful at, right? Well, you can list those either attached together, so in the same state with the same carrier across lines, right? Or list it solo across you can drill down as low as carrier line of business within a state. Buyers on our platform will then be able to see that information plus the number of policies, number of customers, and total premium attached to that. Those listings are not attached to an agency's name or that agent's name. What they're attached to is a username. We've heard from a lot of agents that when they're selling or exploring a sale, it's important to remain
very sensitive thing.
Yeah. Like they don't want to be like, hey, I'm getting out of the game, right? Because then you can kind of do like negative recruiting against, or it's just they want to be cognizant of that. So it's not tied to you or your agency's name. It's a username. But buyers are able to see that data, right, and be able to see it in a standardized fashion to compare and contrast across.
Is it validated somehow?
Yeah, so not right now. I mean, not right now. It's we're asking for agents to come on the platform, and we want to make it really easy for agents to get to that first step of an introduction, right? Now, my team is happy to ingest the reports and the data, and we're building tools in order to be able to do that and actually validate that and add like kind of a cake slice emoji as a verification badge. But what buyers are able to do is view that standardized data across, right? And then chat with the seller and say, hey, I'm interested in learning more here. We also have a deal room function where you can open a deal room between a buyer and a seller, and it's NDA locked. So you have to sign an NDA before you go into the deal room. Within the deal room, that's where we're able to start to exchange book of business reports, carrier reports. If we're getting all the way down to selling a full agency, right? You'd want to start to exchange some of the financials there. But within that deal room, you can start to validate the data, and we have third-party service providers that we're bringing to it, from a broker, lawyer, accountant, right? Like we're surrounding the scaffolding there. And really, we're early in this journey, Tony. And the way I kind of describe this is that in 6 months, 12 months, I'll have a lot of this process up to the point that I've described. The next phase of that process will be automated, right? Like we will want to be taking in and piping in data, right? We will have kind of standardized deal rooms formats there. But also I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm not an insurance agent. You highlighted that you're not either, right? And I have found in my experience of building these products that it's best to get into the weeds with your users early. And you want to build a tool that facilitates a solution that's good enough. Right now, it's really hard for buyers and sellers to find each other. And we've built a tool for them to be able to find each other, to have that discovery, and start the due diligence process. And before we start to add to that, what I want to do is get in the trenches with the agents on a few of these transactions to figure out what can be automated, right? And what's going to still need that white glove service, and where we need to invest on the operations side.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you the nerdiest metaphor I
I'm
have
excited.
probably ever used on this podcast. Okay. Uh, I'm a gamer, as I've talked about before, um, and I'm a really nerdy gamer. And I don't play anything multiplayer, with one exception. I do play a game called Elite Dangerous, which is a space game. And I played in solo mode, but it's still a shared universe. And the interesting part about Elite Dangerous, other than the fact that it's beautiful and I have a really cool setup to play it, you can be a fighter, you can be a trader, you can switch around anyway. So I started my Elite Dangerous career as a trader. So basically as a space trucker. Okay. So and this is a one-to-one
Han
reproduction,
Solo.
a one-to-one reproduction of the real galaxy. Basically, there are billions of stars. The majority of the game, 10 years in, it continues to be unexplored. Okay, and most of it's empty, basically. So anyway, so the weird thing, and I promise this will make sense in a couple minutes. The
I'm
weird
just
thing,
interested to play this game now.
it's kind of towards the end of its life, but it's fantastic. Okay, so
Yeah.
the real interesting thing is that the game developers made this really weird choice to not make a a basically there is no way in game to figure out the price of different commodities in different places, and it takes real time. Like you're flying faster than light, but still it can take half an hour of your real time in front of the computer, and that travel time is fairly boring, to get to a different station and try to sell the shit that you bought in the last station, right? And there is no in-game tool to figure out market prices right now. And the prices fluctuate
Yeah.
according to supply and demand, right? So this was a really bad decision by the developers. So the community of nerds came together, and they built websites
A
that
marketplace. Yeah,
have that
that's amazing.
information. No, but the really brilliant part of the way they built it is they created. By the time I came around, like 5 or 6 years ago, the game's been around for like 11. But the time that I came around 5 years ago, um, they had created a tiny little piece of software called the Elite Markets Connector. And basically, you download it to your computer, you enter your username and password, you allow it to see your account, and whenever you're in the game, whenever you go into a station, it downloads the latest prices from that station and shares them across the network, right? And
Yeah.
it does tell the other users how long ago this was updated. Okay, you have basically built the same thing for insurance agencies. Now you're not yet at the point
Yeah.
where they have so the reason I do this whole thing is because eventually it would make so much sense for them to be able to after they sign the NDA, download a little piece of software into their computer that plugs into their Epic or plugs into their Vertafore, where we can truly search and it's validated, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
absolutely love what you're doing, dude.
No, yeah, you've hit on a huge thing. So one of my co-founder was the head of data and algorithms at our last job and at our last company, the manufacturing platform. And he's come on, and we've got partners. I want to shout out Carrie Wallace. She's an incredible person in the industry, doing agency valuations. And I think agency valuations, what we've really talked about there is that there's an art and a science to it, right? And right now, I think the problem is that it takes a carry to navigate the science and the art, right? because the data that's publicly reported, like if you go on like the Deloitte reports, right? Even the Optus reports, and like shout out, like Optus does a great job. Reagan, Marsh, they do a great job reporting on the industry. But a lot of the transactions that we're talking about happen in a private transaction, right? And so there isn't the ability to access that data. So when agents are saying, this is my valuation because this is the multiple that is kind of average for the year. Well, we're talking about multiples on deals that were in the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, right? For large agencies. These are big public transactions, right?
And it's a very illiquid market with very little information.
Yeah. It's really not relevant data to the agents that we're talking about. And so what we're doing, one, the book valuation tool that we have is a machine learning model that will provide the valuations. Now it's in beta right now, and we're testing it. We're very cognizant of the fact that we need to represent this thing well, and so we're testing it. We're also getting like really sharp pencil feedback from industry experts that do this. But we believe that we can provide a market rate, right, that you were talking about, and give that access and that intelligence to agents over time. Now, what we also want to do is give, like, imagine a Zillow platform where I'm able to track the value of my book over time based on my retention metrics, based on my growth, right?
I hadn't even thought of that. That's fantastic. Yes.
Like this thing has a live asset value, and being able to strategically optimize your growth around that is incredibly valuable. So we're aiming to bring that and have built the early tools to hope to arm agents with that information. And so, I love what you hit on, right? Like the valuations are huge. Like that's a huge problem in the transaction right now because no one has public data. There's no Zillow. There's no market rate that you can compare on.
Dear agent, you are thinking of retiring someday. That day could be now. It could be 15 years from now. What is your agency worth today? And this from a guy that thinks, like, my girlfriend's family, they're fantastic savers, they're fantastic investors, and they like, mom is the only one that's retired. The rest of like my girlfriend's 39, and she's the oldest, and the other kids are younger. The youngest is 30. Every day, all four of them actively discuss the day-to-day movements of the stock market. And I think it's silly as hell because at this point we're not selling for decades, right? We're buyers right now, not sellers, right? So even though I think that for my book of business, yes, I would love to know the value as a recruiter, and my recruiting practice is only a year old. I would love to know the value of my book of business. It's a very different business because really what I have is relationships that might not stay if I leave. Right? There's no renewals here.
Yeah.
Which is the big value. But you get what I'm saying? Like I would love to know, like you said, on a day by day, week by week, month by month, be able to make decisions based on what the things that are actually making my asset more valuable in the market.
Yeah, there are people doing this right now, like Seth at Be Atomic and Neon is doing some incredible work. But there, you have insurtechs that are starting to drill down to the operations cost, like how effective is my operations? In a moment where you say, 1 + 1 = 3, so basically I can buy something, at this rate, but it will take my value to this because I know that I'm going to run that more effectively. I'm able to grow that. I have a higher likelihood of retention rate because I'm an expert in that niche, right? Like the ability to think about your agency like that, I think it's sorely missed, and I think that there's a lot of agents that are hungry to run their businesses that way, and they're already attempting to, right? It's just what we're trying to do is maybe not bring the ultimate puzzle piece, but a major puzzle piece of this is the valuation, this is the current market, and take some of that unknown out of this transaction and out of the value of what they're building.
Don't tell the rest of the cohort this, but you might be my favorite That out of the ones that I have really bad memory, maybe there was one that I loved. Okay, how do you guys get paid? Right, like you're
Yeah.
building
So
immense value here. But if I was an
yeah,
investor, right, if I'm a
that's a great
VC,
question. So right now, sellers don't pay anything, right? What we want is for you to be able to find the value of your business and to interact with buyers. So it's free to list on the platform. Buyers pay a subscription fee, and it's $39.99 a month, but you get access to all the sellers that come on.
oh, okay, so
Now,
it's not a commission. It's
well,
it's
so
it's a
that's what I was about to
subscription to the
say.
information.
So that's what I was about to say is right now what we provide is meet and greet, discovery, right, and the due diligence, like the beginning of those due diligence. What we're building is the actual financial engine that will allow for the money to change hands, for you to track if there's an earn out period over time, right? So say you have an earn out period based on retention rate, right? We want to be able to facilitate that payout over time. We're probably 8 months away from that engine being attached to the transaction. Now, when that is, we will be taking a percentage of that transaction fee, but it's much smaller than the regional brokerages. What we're charging is basically the trust and security that this is going to take place on the platform and be facilitated by Cake. And what we really think too is that we're charging. We're able to charge less than an operationally heavy, group that isn't even really targeting this industry right now. So
Okay.
it's like I said, right now, what I'm focused on for that portion is I want to be in the trenches on a few transactions, right? So
Mm-hmm.
anyone that's looking to sell or buy right now, it's a subscription fee for buyers. It's free for sellers. And we're focused on building the right tools in order to convince you to keep the transaction on the platform. I think that's what the best marketplaces do, right? It's not punish you for disseminating the platform, right? What they do is they build tools that are attractive enough that you want to stay on the platform and are okay with me taking my commission on that sale, because I'm not gouging you because I've brought enough value to that transaction. And so we're focused on discovering those pieces over the next 6 months or so to finalize the transaction engine. But yeah, thanks for asking that. That's a good question.
This is fantastic. Yeah, absolutely wonderful service to the industry, bringing something that just didn't exist before, and yeah, just yeah, absolutely wonderful. That's all I have for now. We've actually recorded a little bit longer than I normally do, and
Yeah.
I look forward to have you back in a year or two to hear how things went, and yeah, super cool stuff. How had nobody thought of this? uh,
Well, I won't say they haven't, but it's just yeah, we're excited about it. And just real quick plug, I'm super down to talk to anyone and
and you
everyone
froze
within
there
the
a little.
industry. I'm in incredible like student mode right now. I want to learn as much as possible. And so my LinkedIn is /Adam Bowe, Bowe. You can also email me at adam@haveyourcake.com or find Cake at www.haveyourcake.com. Sorry, Tony, if I stole those plugs from you,
All good,
but just
all
want to make
good.
sure that folks can get in touch because we're looking to talk to and work with and hopefully help as many folks that are interested in it. So really
When
excited
this
about it.
goes live, we'll tag you and the company on LinkedIn, and the show notes will have you and your LinkedIn and the company website. Uh, and
Perfect.
thank you for 101 Weston for yet another fantastic episode. Huge fan of the accelerator. Full disclosure, I am a huge fan of some of the other also. So like
Mm-hmm.
lots of love for broker tech also, which is kind of the direct competitor. But I'm glad that there's more than one because we definitely need that. So yeah, thank you very
Oh,
much for
there's
your
enough
time today.
energy to go around. Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Have a great one. Oh, and stay on the line for now.
Yeah.